Chapter 9. Work and no work. Hannah was as desperate to leave and to earn some travel cash as I was, so we left Adelaide together. We went by bus, and our destination was a working hostel amidst the farmlands at the Murray River. We heard there was some harvesting work and just went for it without investigating any details. The bus driver just dropped us off at an empty rural road and told us the hostel bus would pick us up. Of course, it started to rain, so Hannah and I stood with all our belongings on a dirt road getting drenched, not knowing if we would ever be picked up by someone or would be left to rot or to drown. Lo and behold, after what had seemed an eternity, the hostel bus came and we were happy, at least for the time being, until we saw the hostel. Oh, what luxury we had been living in Adelaide. This was the filthiest place one can imagine, and there was no way to get out. It was in the middle of nowhere. There was no town, not even a village nearby. No shop, no gas station, no sign of human settlement anywhere. Except for a pub. There was a pub. To get out, you had to take the hostel bus, and this time pay for it. I felt trapped like Pinocchio on Treasure Island, but this wasn't full of treats and joyrides. However, every person living here was a donkey, metaphorically speaking. People went to the fields in the mornings and came back at night. The money they earned was used to pay for the hostel and their food. There wasn't much left to save. Modern slavery. One also never knew what work you'd get on the day. It could be strawberry picking or it could be melons. Small fruit, small money, big fruit, big money. We shared our room with a few English girls and they were so dirty. I honestly do not know how they have managed to get to 20 years old without any basic life skills. Imagine a big container of dirty, smelling washing and a big bag full of trash. Now empty this in a 100 square foot room and you get the picture. It smelled as bad as it looked. The flush mechanism in the toilets didn't work. There was a bucket next to it to flush your bodily waste away. The water in the showers and kitchen was brown. Nevertheless, we used it for washing, cooking, and drinking. Most people who worked here were backpackers like us, who had been stranded here one way or another. It was a sad place. Because there was nothing else to do, most of them left their meager earnings at the pub and had none left to travel on. I knew we would not make money here. We had to get out. Thankfully, we had made a plan before we came here. Hannah and I had organized a stay at a farm on Kangaroo Island, located off the coast of Adelaide. We had found an organization called WWOOF. That stands for Willing Workers on Organic Farms. You don't get paid for the work. Instead, you trade it for room and board at the farm. We wanted to see the island for free and wanted to experience real life as an Australian, so what better way to do it? Unfortunately, we would not earn any money beforehand. We both knew that by now. I had not imagined it so hard to find paid work in Australia. On day 2, we still weren't selected for work. Some of the other workers had waited a week before getting in, as they called it. We had no time for that and weren't willing to waste money for this place. So on day 3, of what should have been our money-earning week, we paid the rusty bus to take us back to Adelaide. Back at the Bracken Inn, we marveled at the crystal-clear water and working toilet flush and wondered what our farm stay on Kangaroo Island would be like. We had a few days to kill before we could go there. Hannah made us some delicious fried potatoes, and a huge and friendly Swede joined us at the table. Swedes have an excellent sense of humor, so much so that my abs hurt the next morning from laughing so much. He planned to get high on eucalypt, like the koalas. They sleep so much because they only eat eucalypt leaves, which have a drug-like effect. That tickled him immensely, and I will forever remember him as Swedish Koala, the name we called him after that. He was a chef as well and had some similarities to the one on the Sesame Street. It was all quite amusing, and we had a really pleasant time with him. The few days back in Adelaide were spent at a leisurely pace. I was okay with that. All of a sudden I realized that you cannot expect an exciting adventure every single day. This wasn't an average 2 or 3 week long holiday that you pack to the brim with experiences. No, I was here for a year, so there would be boring days, normal days, I should say. The days till our farm stay were just that. I had trouble finding anything worth mentioning to put in my diary. The exception was going to the casino with the Swedish Koala. I had never been to a casino before, so I jumped at the opportunity. I was afraid I would fall into the alluring dream of becoming rich and gamble away all the money I had left. I had no idea if I was prone to becoming addicted to gambling or not. It could be entirely possible. As a precaution, I left my wallet and bank card at the Bracken Inn, pocketed only $10, and went off to my first gambling venture. The casino was in a historic building that was formerly a railway station. It had a grand entrance with a large staircase and white columns, Victorian splendor. Inside, even though some historic details were left, was nothing like the dignified Victorian style of the outside. It was gleaming and glittering everywhere, not gaudy, but still quite in your face. And it had carpet, which I did not expect and found very odd. I am sure the railway station must have had marble floors once upon a time, and I kept wondering why someone would cover that up. The Swedish Koala went on the roulette table, and I watched, fascinated. I too bought a chip, $5 only. I placed it on a random number, having no idea how this would work. But I felt positively Bond girl-like in my fancy dress and waited for my big win. Needless to say, I lost within seconds, and it was over before I could soak in the air of obscenely rich roulette players. The Swedish Koala stayed. I left the roulette table in dismay. I ventured round those vast halls full of poker, roulette, and finely dressed people. Most were laughing, having light-hearted fun, but some were looking sullen and had an air of desperation around them. Then I entered what was the loudest part of the casino, slot machines and one-armed bandits. Less affluent-looking people were here. It was more where I belonged, and I wandered the endless aisles of machines to pick my lucky one. I put $4 of my remaining $5 into the same slot machine, which was constantly spinning symbols and numbers. With a pineapple, a cherry, and a number 7, I lost those $4 too. I left the thieving machine and got ready to leave the casino. One thing I noticed on the way out was that there were neither windows nor clocks. I don't know whether this is normal for casinos, but I thought it was a pretty mean trick to keep people from knowing how long they have already been stuck in this money-sucking false promised land. I decided to stick my remaining $1 into the last one-armed bandit in the row before I would leave this place. Lo and behold, I did make the small win of $10. Believing in signs and wonders sometimes, I took it as such. This was my chance to leave with what I came, no richer, no poorer, and I did. Unlike the Swedish koala, who first won 1,000 at the roulette and then lost 2,000. Sometimes Stan, the owner of the Breckin Inn and bartender at the adjoining pub, came over to sit with us in the living room. He was an attractive young redhead with a typical Irish temper. One night he brought his DVD player and we watched the first 2 Lord of the Ring movies, the only ones that were out at that time. But that was quiet for him. The week before, he went out to get drunk with some other guys living at the Breckin Inn, and they came home completely wasted and had the Breckin Inn mascot tattooed on their backs. A camel. Holy schmackaroli, was I glad not to have been part of that one.